Hi, in this question, we're going to look at the impact of a deposit to a bank on that bank's reserves. To be more specific, imagine that we have John with $10,000 cash in his pocket, and he has a bank account at Bank One, a checking account, and John is depositing $10,000 cash in his checking account, and we assume required reserve ratio is 20%, which means anytime Bank One is receiving $1 in deposit, by law they are required to keep 20% of it at the minimum, which is 20 cents, in their reserves. So from that perspective, we're going to look at and see the impact of that deposit on Bank One's actual reserve amount, required reserve amount, and excess reserve amount. And we make the assumption that Bank One is going to keep that money in their reserves. They are not going to immediately lend out that $10,000 deposit. So first start with the impact of this deposit in the amount of $10,000 in Bank One's actual reserves, bank reserves. So there are two ways a bank can put a deposit in their reserves, whether they can put in the bank, in their vault, or they can put that money in their account at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Regardless of how they're gonna allocate that money, when they receive $10,000 cash in deposit, it is assumed that they will keep it in their vault. It is gonna increase the actual bank reserves by the amount of the deposit. So bank reserves will increase by the amount of deposit if the bank is not lending out that money. So that is going to be the result. Okay, the next question is, what is the impact of this new deposit by John in the amount of $10,000 on bank's required reserves? This is the equation. This is how we calculate the required reserve the bank needs to keep for a given required reserve ratio of 20%. So whatever the deposit amount they have to keep at least 20% in their reserves. So obviously, since John is depositing money to the bank deposits are going up. As a result, we expect required reserves to go up. By how much? We can use the following formula. Remember, the delta is saying that there is a change in a variable delta. Required reserve is the change in required reserve. We can use this formula that will tell you how much is going to be the change in required reserve for the bank. And since we know there is new deposits to the bank, as a result of this one, let me quickly write this down. Required reserve will go up by 20% times the change in deposit is going to be $10,000. So it's going to go up by 20% of new deposits, which is $2,000. Required reserves are going up by $2,000. How about the impact on excess reserve after the bank is receiving $10,000? This is a formula to find out the excess reserve in a bank at any time. What we do, we get the actual reserves, and we know that actual reserves is the money in their bank vault and money at their account at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. So excess reserve, we get the actual reserve amount and subtract required reserve from this, and the remaining will be how much extra money we have in the bank excess of the required reserve amount. And again, we want to know how much is the change. Again, what we're gonna do, we're gonna apply this change formula, get this equation and apply it in here. As you can see, excess reserve, change in excess reserve will be actual reserves minus required reserves. So in a sense, I can answer this in two different formats. One way to find that the change in excess reserve is to apply this formula. Change in excess reserve will be change in excess reserve minus change in required reserve. and we know when John is depositing $10,000 to the bank, it is going to increase the bank reserves by $10,000. We have done this at the beginning, and it's going to increase our required reserve by $2,000. Remaining amount is going to be the change in excess reserve. So just to show you that this is what we get from here, and change in excess reserve, actual reserve is above. We show it over there. Okay, this is $10,000. Gonna go up by $8,000. Okay, another way to find the change in excess reserve is to apply the following formula. Unfortunately, this formula is not supported in the textbook, but it might be helpful during the test. As long as you know how to do it, you will be fine. Change in excess reserve at any time bank is receiving new deposits. 1 minus RR fraction of that new deposit will be the change in excess reserve, because they need to keep RR fraction in their reserves. The remaining is at their disposal to lend out. If they don't, then it is in their reserve as excess reserve, eligible to be lent out. So if I apply the formula 1 minus RR%, which is 0.20, times the change in deposit, John is putting $10,000 in here, and if I apply it, I'll get $8,000. It's exactly the same number in here, and we can